My partner, right? Oh, talk to me. Yeah, the Blessing Loom? No, I've never heard of it. Similar to the Sou Sou. Alright, well let me get back to you now. Alright, take care. Guys, I'm sure many of you are like me. You've been receiving calls night and day, persons asking you to join this Blessing Loom. Well, in this video, I'm going to be speaking on 3 major points distinguishing the Blessing Loom from the Sou Sou. Stay tuned. Oh. Recruitment is a good point to distinguish the Blessing Looms and the Sou Sou. When you look at the Blessing Looms, it's where members receive their monies by recruiting members, and then those recruited members have to recruit new members, and those new members have to recruit new members. You get the point. So that is what the Blessing Loom structure is like. In that, you see where in order for you to get your monies, you need to always recruit new members. If you don't recruit new members, it means that there's going to be a cash trap and you're not going to get your monies accordingly. Now, as well as with the Blessing Loom, you see that there's no product or there's no services being provided. It's just an assurance or some kind of a statement saying, yeah, you're going to get your monies once you could bring your 2 persons in. If you look at the diagram, you will also see where there's 1 person in the center and then there are 2 other persons after that person, and then after those 2 persons, there are 4 other persons, because everyone has the responsibility of bringing in 2 additional members. A next distinguishing factor under this whole recruitment method is when you look at the environment. It's a very enthusiastic environment when it comes to you recruiting persons. You know, they'll invite you to a meeting and they say, if you come to this meeting, you know it's going to be a life-changing experience, so you should invest now, because once opportunities pass, it doesn't really pass, but opportunities actually go to other persons. So it's best you invest now. Give me your $400 so that you would be able to get your monies in the future. You know, those kind of advertisements. They would invite you to WhatsApp groups, Zoom meetings. That's how the Blessing Loom operates. I would say under this whole recruitment process as well, you would have what is seen as testimonies and referrals and encouragements for persons to actually start to invest. So you would have a lot of persons posting on Facebook, you know what, I get my hand, I get blessed, I get my money, who said this is false? Just, you know, give a little encouragement. And then in the meetings as well, there'll be persons who will be coming and giving testimonies. Yes, I invested $400 2 weeks ago and I'm able now to reap $1,600 and so on and so on. So this is what you will see as under the Blessing Looms, how you recruit persons. And remember, there's the multiplicand system taking place. It's 1 person bringing 2 persons, those 2 persons will bring 2 persons each, and so on. There's some videos, I'll link it in the bottom, that will explain how the loom system operates. Unlike the Sou Sou, let me just explain how that is. A Sou Sou is more like a cooperative saving system among members where they contribute an amount on a weekly basis, a fixed amount on a weekly basis, and then it's distributed to the same members over a period of time. So you see where persons would contribute a certain amount over a period of time, and then they would receive the amount that they contributed over a period of time. And I'll explain that lower down. So as well as with the Sou Sou, there's no product or there's no services being provided. So it's very similar to the Blessing Loom when it comes to that area. You see that with the Sou Sou, it's normally your very close friends and family members that you would do Sou Sou with, as compared to the Blessing Loom, where I understand that it's persons from all different countries and persons from different places who may not even know. And those are persons you're going to be doing this investment with. And again, with the Sou Sou, it's normally a very private arrangement. So you don't normally see people going on Facebook, I get my hand, thank God I joined the Sou Sou, and so on. You know, that's one of the major distinctions as to the Blessing Loom and the Sou Sou. That's with reference to the recruitment. I want to speak about the next point now. Let's move on to that. Hey! I received my hand. For those persons who may not understand my dialect and accent, it more or less means that I've received the monies that's due to me. Let me tell you why this part I think is what really entices persons to enter into the Blessing Looms as compared to the Sou Sou. with the blessing loom, if you were to look at the diagram, you will see that there's one person in the center of the blessing loom, and then there are 8 persons around at the end, which is called the fire part. So those are the persons who are really in the heat. Those persons would contribute a certain amount of money, let's say $400 each, and those $400 each would be sent to the person in the center. So the person in the center receives 4 by 8, $3,200 at the end of it. That person the person who receives the $3,200, that person leaves and there's no obligation on that person to now come back into the blessing loom. Person just received their blessing, go on Facebook and other places and say thank God they received their blessing. And after that, you see where the persons who were behind the person in the center, those persons now become in the middle, which is the water, and the whole cycle continues again. So the persons at the end now have to go and look for new recruits, and the cycle continues. So the faster you are able to recruit persons, it means that the faster you are able to collect your hand and move on. You know what I mean? Collect your hand and you move on. Unlike the Sou Sou, in the Sou Sou, let me explain how it is. It is where you have the set members. So let's say there are 4 persons in the Sou Sou cycle. Each person contributes $100 on a weekly basis, everybody, right? And there's one person called the banker. This banker would collect all of the monies that are brought in by each of the members on a weekly basis. So week 1, this person who is the banker would collect the $400. And then the $400 is going to be given to one person in the cycle. So this one person in the first week would collect the $400. And the cycle would continue. But this person who collected the $400, that person just doesn't leave. That person has to continue to contribute the $100 until this person collects their $400. When this person collects, this person continues until this person collects the $400, and then everybody just continues until this person collects their $400 and the cycle comes to an end. So you see where you will be receiving your money in this type of system, the Sou Sou system, on a weekly basis. Some persons do it weekly, some persons do it monthly. But for us, let's say weekly. You will do it on a weekly basis, and you must contribute your certain amount, $100 every week for 4 weeks. So you invest $400 and you get back $400. It's just that it's staggered, right? So both of them get their money, but you see the distinguishing feature there. The first one, the blooming circle, or blooming not the blooming, the blessing loom, right? That one is where you would get your additional, it increases by 8 times, more or less, 8 times the amount that you invested, as compared to the Sou Sou, where you would get the amount that you invested just over a period of time. Yeah. So that's the return. I'm going to speak about the last part. Hear this, you guys, the last point, risk. What are the risks involved in the both of these methods? Now, when you look at the blessing loom, where there's a greater risk or a greater return in your investments, one of the major risks in this is the commitment of persons who are involved in this loom. Because once it is that you have a person who cannot recruit to other persons or doesn't give the monies, it means that there's going to be a shortage of cash and the system would collapse. In addition to that, if it is that you have those persons who just receive their monies, receive their big monies and just leave, it means that there's no continuity. So that is one of the major risks when you enter into this blessing loom arrangement. Another part that I've heard is persons saying that you have to give your banking details to persons because monies could be sent via transfer and other means, credit card information and so on. And you need to be very careful with that because you know, your identity theft is one, and as well as persons being able to get your monies easily, and so that is one of the major risks I find when it comes to the blessing loom as to how monies are collected. In addition to that, there's no control as to when you would collect your blessing or your hand. You must go through the hierarchy system. If you're on the outer fire system, you must go through the the various levels before you actually reach the water. Those are some. Some of the other ones I want to look at is that now is with persons that you may not know. Now I'm a person who respects international relations and meeting people and interacting with people and trusting and building that relationship with persons. Don't get me wrong, but with the Blessing Loom, I understand that there would be persons who you may not know at all, and you have no connections with, persons who you have no relationship with, and they enter into this arrangement with you, and you don't know whether or not these persons would be committed to the arrangement. So while I respect international relations and building relationships, and so one needs to be very mindful of this high risk that you're entering into. Yeah. Further, there's no regulated or there's no regulations by law. It's not regulated by law, the Blessing Loom. And we're going to speak about that more in my other video. So I'll just leave that there for now. There's no regulation. So if it's not regulated, it means that it's difficult for the government and the police and they to get directly involved whenever you are defrauded and treated wrongly. And this is the next point I want to mention as well, that there's a greater charge or greater possibility of you being charged, arrested, charged, imprisoned, or punished for being involved in a Blessing Loom as compared to a Sou Sou. So let me talk about the risk now involved in the Sou Sou. With the Sou Sou, there's no commitment as well. If there's no commitment by one person, by one of the four persons, yeah, the whole Sou Sou could fall apart. Now, when you look at that though, the mechanism that they put in place for Sou Sou is to protect or to reduce that risk, is where the most risky person and the newest person, that person would receive their hand last. So you must be committed in contributing your weekly $100 until everybody gets their hand. So that's one. That's one way of dealing with it. And most times with Sou Sous, it's done with close friends and family members. So whether persons from international arenas where you know this person and you develop this relationship with this person, that is distinguishing factors. So that's in terms of the risk, it's less. And then you don't want to develop what is called bad blood with your friends and your family members. For those persons who may not understand what that means, it means you don't want to create any kind of animosity or tension, unnecessary tension with your loved ones when you go to family reunions, or you know, you're posting something on Facebook or so, and then you get negative comments from your friend who you develop bad blood with because of not making your contribution to your Sou Sou. Our next risk, when you compare the risk with the Sou Sou, is where you could determine when you're going to get your hand in the Sou Sou. You could say, yes, you know, I'm very faithful in this, and I want my hand by the second week because I have to pay for my tuition, or I have to buy something from one of the furniture stores, I wouldn't call any names, or I want to go to this particular clothes store to buy this, or I want to invest in a house. So you can determine when you want to collect your hand. And in terms of it being regulated by law, it's a moot point, which basically means that it's not black, it's not white, it's in the grey area, so it's kind of uncertain. But we'll have a conversation about that in my next video. In addition to that, you actually being arrested and charged and imprisoned, the chances are less as compared to the Blessing Loom. And those are conversations that we're going to have in my next video. So if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe and leave a comment in this, and look out for that video that I'm going to be posting. That's my next video regarding the legal elements and the legality of the both systems. We're also going to be looking at the enforcement of any existing law, if there are laws that exist for the both systems. In addition to that, we're going to see how it impacts the economy, the both systems, how it impacts the economy. And then I'm going to be looking at some proposals and some discussions in law that the governments in the Caribbean, they probably should consider as to how we could really deal with the both systems. Yeah. So You guys, thank you so much for being with me this week. If you haven't already, make sure that you check some of my other videos and share these videos with others, because I know next week at the end of the month, that's when persons get their salaries, as well as senior persons, they would get their pension and all of that. And I think it's important that we are able to share information with persons so that they can make informed decisions. So please share this video with others and encourage persons to subscribe, because on this channel you will get relevant, reliable and useful information for your everyday living. I will see you guys on the next video. Take care for now. Yeah.